Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about some potentially exciting news now made even more realistic about Eurovision, and specifically JOOST KLEIN, who represented the Netherlands this year with the song Europapa, which was a favourite to be at least within the top 10, I'd say, but it did get disqualified. We'll touch on that later. Of course, I'm sure many of you already know. But recently, you might have seen on the different social medias that JOOST expressed an interest to represent Belgium at the 2025 contest. And there's been some news today that might make that even more of a reality. So where this all started, JOOST was performing at a concert in Belgium, and he spots a banner of someone holding up a sign that says something like, JOOST KLEIN for the Netherlands 2025, and he essentially goes, what makes you think I'm representing that country? And then he essentially calls out one of the Belgian broadcasters, Studio Brussels, to hit him up and so he can represent. And today, this is an article from Eurovision Fun, which headlines with, VRT invites JOOST KLEIN for Eurovision 2025. So, an official invite from the broadcaster? How has this happened? Why has this happened? Well, stick with me, because we're going to find out. So, this clip in question, I'll play it for you now. I believe JOOST is speaking in Dutch. I have tried to use Google Translate to translate that into English. It might not be 100% perfect, so I do apologize. And if anyone can provide a more accurate translation, feel free to let me know in the comments. But here's the initial clip.
Hey, wacht eens even. Ik zie daar een bord. Maar wie zegt dat ik voor dat land ga, bruv? Hey, Studio Brussel, regel iets. Bel me, bruv. Volgens mij mag er weer iemand van deze kant van het land doorheen, of zoiets heb ik begrepen.
So from that, he seems definitely up for A, coming back, and B, being represented by Belgium. But this is what the article begins with. The recent public call of JOOST KLEIN to the Belgian public broadcaster seems to have found a response, since the Dutch-speaking public television of Belgium, with a post on social media, expresses its interest in the artist and the possible representation of the country by him in Eurovision 2025. A few days earlier, at a concert in Belgium, JOOST KLEIN, responding to a banner of his fans calling for him to return with the Netherlands to Eurovision 2025, replied, "Who told you that I want to represent this country? Belgium? Call me." So yeah, essentially, subtitles weren't exactly the same, but same sort of sentiment. Now, why would he want to do this? Well, JOOST has a decent fan base in Belgium. Of course, you could argue he is probably the most popular in his native Netherlands, as most artists tend to be, but there are numerous other territories around Europe in which JOOST has made a name for himself and has quite the fan base, and I think it's fair to say that one of those, when you look at sales or chart placements or even just, general audiences and reactions, is Belgium. And immediately I know some people maybe who aren't as immersed in Eurovision as I am might think, well, how on earth can, this Dutchman represent Belgium? Well, in terms of that, with the actual rules of the contest, no rule has ever been implemented to limit the nationality or country of birth of the competing artists. Many competing countries with a small population, such as Luxembourg and Monaco, were regularly represented by artists and composers from other countries, and several winning artists in the contest history have held a different nationality or were born in a different country to that in which they represented in the contest. And again, that's right, if you look throughout Eurovision's history, so many artists, both of those who won and of those who didn't win, do not originally come from that country. Take, for example, Celine Dion, who won in 1988. She won for Switzerland, but she's originally, I believe, from Quebec in Canada. She's French-Canadian. So in terms of that, there's no barrier for JOOST to represent Belgium whatsoever. Studio Brussels, or VRT, did not miss the opportunity and responded to JOOST KLEIN. The Belgian broadcaster published a post on Instagram in which it wrote, "@JOOST KLEIN, check private messages please, thank you," along with a video of KLEIN doing his reading, while she hinted that she's trying to get in touch with the Dutch singer. And if you actually look on the Instagram post, the third picture is seemingly of the broadcaster sending a message like, "Hey," with an embarrassed pixelated emoji face, which is quite funny. So, some would maybe argue, is this all a bit of a joke? Are they just trying to do it to get some attention, get some clicks? I don't know. I mean, Belgium have always seemed up for Eurovision. Despite all the controversies this year, they seem to be a nation that was, just focused on sending their act, moving it forward. And indeed, they have confirmed their participation for 2025, and they're already setting the cogs in motion to do that. So I'd say we can take this as a pretty genuine offer. It is obvious that Belgian public broadcaster is interested in seeing Joost Klein compete in Eurosong 2025, and why not represent the country in Switzerland? VRT will hold Eurosong 2025 to select the artist and song that will represent the country in the competition. There will be no open call for song submissions, but by invitation only to established artists. Now, Eurosong, you know, that a lot of countries hold their own national finals, if you will, to select their acts. The UK used to do one for many years, a song for Europe it was often called. We tend not to do this anymore. We haven't done this in years. The BBC just seems to either select internally or they hire other music agencies such as Tap Music, I think they were called. That resulted in Sam Ryder and May Muller. No open song submissions though, so invitation only. It makes you wonder what other established artists are going to be involved. Artists who receive an invitation will be asked to submit up to 2 original songs to VRT. The songs will be auditioned and a committee will decide which artists and which songs will compete in Eurosong 2025 to represent Belgium at Eurovision 2025. So 2 songs. Joost actually released, it seems like a similar process had to be done for Avatros, the Dutch broadcaster, because he recently released the Birds song, which he put in an Instagram post, I believe, was also submitted for Eurovision 2024. Now, personally, I think Europapa was the better choice, the better song to send to Eurovision, but the Bird song's quite fun too. So this idea of selecting 2 songs to be whittled down seems pretty commonplace. If he does go with this, if this hookup does officially happen, it makes me think, what kind of song are we going to get? Are we going to get something, you know, in that Europapa vein, that very, like, 90s, early 2000s inspired, like, sort of, I don't know what you call it, like hyper pop or like really, I just love it, man. Like, that vibe, that style, and with his other songs as well, that takes me right back to when I was a kid, and I love that sort of music. But is it going to be like that, or is it going to be something completely different? Maybe something left field that we maybe wouldn't necessarily expect from Joost. Who knows? The Dutch singer Joost Klein was disqualified a few hours before the final of Eurovision 2024 after a complaint filed against him by a Swedish photographer in the production of the contest. The complaint, which has gone to justice, was that Joost Klein used violence against her. Now, important to stress, at the time I'm recording this, early July, we haven't had any update onto that situation. As far as we know, that is still ongoing with the Swedish justice system. It's clear that Joost isn't, well, they haven't said that he's on bail or anything like that. He's clearly not limited to, he's obviously been allowed to leave Sweden. He's been all over since the contest this year. The Deputy Director General of the European Broadcasting Union, Jean-Philippe de Tender, referred to Joost Klein's desire to compete in Eurovision 2025, saying that this is possible as long as his participation would not violate the contest's regulations. And this was, you know, this guy, Jean, he did do an interview, I guess, in response to the statement that EBU were going to make regarding the contest, which is out now. We did a whole video covering that response. You can check that out if you wish. But in regards to Joost, he said, if there is no violation of the rules, I see no reason why he cannot participate at Eurovision 2025. And already some people are reaching as to what that could mean. Because, you know, he's saying if he doesn't violate the rules, if there's no violation, he can participate all he wants. That's no problem. Some people, again, I'm just reiterating what I've seen. This isn't my opinion personally. But some people have said, well, the fact he's saying I see no reason he can't participate as long as he follows the rules implies that the case from Malmö, the whole thing with the photographer, has sort of been either wrapped up or it's coming to an end or it's maybe not as serious as was made out to be. Again, this is just theory from fans I've seen online. Some people are saying if it was still a big serious matter, he would have said something like, at the conclusion of this matter, once that is resolved or once we get an answer from that, if that's all clear, then he can participate. But instead, he just says if there's no violation of the rules. You could look at this the other way by saying, you know, if there's no violation of the rules, if it comes out that he didn't do anything to this photographer, you could really read into it any way you like. But some would say, and I think I agree, it is reassuring that this is from the Deputy Director General of the European Broadcasting Union, one of the highest positions in the EBU, and they're sort of saying, well, you know, they can participate as long as they don't violate the rules. I don't see a reason why not, but it's not official confirmation, but it seems like the EBU wouldn't, from this statement, be as aversely against Joost coming back. They haven't imposed like a ban or a suspension or anything like that. Unlike Belgium, which is already moving forward with the procedures to find its representative in the next contest, Joost Klein's native Netherlands has not yet made it clear whether it will take part in Eurovision 2025, pending actions from the EBU to avoid situations that happened in Malmö. And this, again, is a very, very important factor to consider, that Avatros, the Dutch broadcaster, again, the time I'm recording this, they haven't said anything about their future participation yet. Just to remind you a bit about their statement on the future, it says, until Avatros is confident that structural adjustments will be made to the artist and their musical message back in the centre, we will keep participation in the Eurovision Song Contest under consideration. Now, as I said, the EBU recently came out with their own statement regarding Malmö, resulting from their findings and how they're going to move forward. For me, in a nutshell, it was sort of like we're saying a lot without saying nothing at all. It was a bit vague. I don't think their words are really going to bear fruit until next year. It seemingly was good news for Norway, as the NRK, their broadcaster, came out and said, okay, yeah, based on that, we're happy to confirm that we're going to come back in, but they stress they do still want to see some aspects change. For Avatros, again, as far as I've heard or seen, they haven't, again, directly commented on this yet, as to whether this is enough for them to make a return next year. Obviously, everyone wants them to return. It's always a shame, I think, when countries dip out. But for the Netherlands, such a prominent country in the contest to dip would be a real shame. As for Joost's participation, we've seen in his Instagram that he's clearly up for representing next year in 2025. He's changed one of his channels on his Instagram to say that. But it is true, I guess, that he hasn't necessarily mentioned the Netherlands all that much in that sentiment. And the fact from this clip, he's saying like, yo, Belgium, hit me up. I don't know whether... Obviously, none of us know what conversations have happened between Joost and Avatros, the Dutch broadcaster. I'd like to think Avatros would be backing his corner. They very much have been from the beginning, but I would find it very strange if Avatros came back next year and said, oh, we're not even going to entertain the idea of Joost representing us again. That would seem very odd in my view. So I think to have Belgium even as like a backup broadcaster wouldn't be a bad idea, because for a fact, right? You know that if this guy came back next year with a song similar to the one he had this year or something with that energy, that's going to do well. I don't think it maybe will necessarily win, even with the all, Justice for Joost movement that's going on, but I don't think... Well, it depends on the song, but I mean, I didn't think Europapa would win this year. I thought it would do top 10, maybe even top 5. I still believe it would have done, but I didn't think it would win. But it was certainly a better result for Belgium, because they had Musty, I believe it's pronounced, this year, who didn't even, sadly, qualify for the final. Now, based on what I saw and heard of the song, especially the live performance that I saw, especially when I was in Malmö at the time, I didn't think Before the Party's Over deserved to qualify, if I'm being completely frank. But a lot of people believed in it. It was tipped by some people to do really well, and it didn't. So I think having Joost for Belgium would immediately give them a better placing for next year. I think it's all prediction after all. Just to give you an update for 2025 as well in terms of countries that have confirmed participation, this is going off Wikipedia, so take it with a pinch of salt, but whoever edits this is usually pretty on it with people who have confirmed things. So the ones that have definitely confirmed, it seems, are Albania, Austria, Belgium, Croatia, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Israel, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Norway, Portugal, Serbia, Spain, Sweden, and of course Switzerland, who are the host nation. I believe the deadline for countries to announce that they want to take part is the end of September, so that's still a couple of months away. So at the minute, there's 17 countries who have confirmed participation. Obviously, by the time we get to September, you'd hope there's going to be a lot more than that. But it'll be interesting to see whether the Netherlands is among them. And if it is, who's going to be their representative? Is it going to be Joost, or is it going to be someone else? Or is Joost going to represent Belgium? We'll have to wait and see. Just to close out on it, regarding the Netherlands, the Wikipedia page says, following Klein's suggestion that he intends to participate again in 2025, Avatros reiterated on the 24th of June 2024 that it's not yet clear whether the Netherlands will take part at all, but that it hoped to provide more clarity soon. So maybe, I mean, that was 2 weeks ago. Now that the statement from the EBU's out, perhaps they're taking more time to analyse it, maybe they're having more discussions with them. But maybe it's not as confirmed as we might have hoped. We'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed. But what do you think about this news? I personally think it'd be very exciting if Joost came back at all. And then to represent Belgium, that'd be really fun. It makes me think of what kind of song would he come out with. It's all just really exciting. Obviously, the case from 2024 is still ongoing. We haven't had any updates on that. I'd assume if they found him guilty of any sort of wrongdoing, that most broadcasters, Netherlands, Belgium included, probably wouldn't want to touch him with a barge pole, but that case is yet to be decided at the time I'm recording. But let me know your thoughts about it. Are you excited that Joost might be coming back? Do you want him to represent the Netherlands? Do you want him to represent Belgium? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. It really does help us out. And subscribe as well, because we'd love to have you aboard. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Derek Chambers, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, Liam Domain, Trev Hughes, Deck, Evan Hart 41, Jen, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Ted Elliott, John Wakefield, and Marnan L. Thurman, our AMTV staff members.